You're planning to shoot an M24? That thing weighs more than you do. Laughter ripples through the firing range like waves crashing against steel walls. Sergeant Evelyn Jackson sets the M24 on the table, sunlight glinting off its barrel. She doesn't speak. She only adjusts the scope, pulls the trigger, and lets the first bullet fly as her answer. The shot rings out clean. The bullet tears through the air. Then 1, 2, 3 shots. 300, 600, 800 meters. All hit their mark perfectly. The laughter stops. All eyes turn to her as the range's door swings open. A general steps in, surveys the targets, and says coldly, "Do any of you know who just fired those shots?" No one answers. That's the best sniper I've ever commanded. And in mere seconds, every prejudice vanishes like gun smoke. The midday sun beats down. The air on the training field is thick with the scent of metal and sweat. Dozens of spent shell casings gleam on the concrete floor. Laughter breaks out, mingling with the rustle of wind through the steel canopy. Rookie Cooper, a burly figure, hoists his M4 like a stage prop. He glances at the woman standing a few steps away, his voice laced with jest. "Step back, ma'am. You'll break your shoulder." The responding chuckles are dry and shallow, like sand grinding together. Evelyn Jackson doesn't reply. She adjusts her rifle strap, tightens it around her arm with precise, almost rhythmic movements. Her chestnut hair is tied back neatly, her green eyes expressionless, calmly peering through the scope. No one knows that this petite woman has spent over a decade operating in the harshest conditions on Earth, where split-second decisions draw the line between life and death. But here, in a range full of rookies, she's just the woman holding the wrong rifle. The sunlight slants. A dry gust sweeps through, kicking up fine dust in a hazy ribbon. Evelyn lies down on the shooting mat, steadies the M24, her fingers grazing the safety. She needs no introduction. She needs no one to know who she is. She's here to evaluate the new batch of recruits. But from the first moment, they've misjudged the person standing before them. She takes a deep breath, holds it, letting her heartbeat settle like a clock in her chest. Ahead, the first target, a white circular board at 300 meters, blurs in the heat rising from the ground. Evelyn calculates instinctively. Wind direction, humidity, temperature, variance. Then she pulls the trigger. The shot cracks, sharp and short, like a hammer striking metal. A second later, the target trembles. A clean hole appears at its center, precise as a pencil point. A few recruits shrug. 300 meters is still within their range. Cooper smirks, but his laughter falters. Evelyn doesn't look at anyone. She smoothly works the bolt, chambers another round. Second target 600 meters. At that distance, the bullet slows, and the wind begins to interfere. She checks the wind flag, listens to the ambient hum of the air. A crosswind from the left, strong enough to shift the trajectory by 0.2 mils. She adjusts the scope, lowers the barrel slightly, and fires. The second shot slices through the air like a silver thread. This time, the hole lands dead center, off by mere millimeters. A recruit swallows hard. Cooper falls silent. Only the sound of a shell casing rolling in the sunlight remains. The range grows eerily still. Martinez, the officer in charge, glances over but doesn't intervene. He's seen plenty of confident shooters, but rarely one with eyes as calm as hers. Evelyn moves to the third target, 800 meters. A distance most soldiers only hit under ideal conditions. No wind, no pressure. But today, the wind shifts suddenly, west to east. A cloud passes, altering the light and casting a glare through the scope. She squints, letting the target come into focus. In her mind, she calculates. Wind speed 9 miles per hour, temperature differential 4 degrees. A 7.62 NATO round will drop about 11 inches at this range. She breathes in, holds, and fires. In that moment, the world narrows to the space between two heartbeats. As the bullet leaves the barrel, she doesn't follow its path. She knows it will find its mark. A faint ting echoes from afar, rippling down the line of targets. When the gun smoke clears, the 800-meter target bears a neat hole dead center. The range falls silent. No one dares speak. Cooper looks down at his hands, then up at the woman still lying calmly behind the rifle, her gaze as steady as if nothing extraordinary has happened. Evelyn removes the magazine, sets the M24 down, and stands, brushing dust from her uniform. No triumphant smile, no explanation. She only looks at the recruits, her voice low and clear. 3 shots, 3 distances. Your turn. The words land like a challenge, but also a test of character. A few steps forward. Cooper grips his rifle, trying to mimic her stance. Sweat beads on his forehead. His first shot decent. The second veers right. The third, at 800 meters, misses entirely. The wind swallows the sound of the bullet. He lowers his rifle, silent. An hour passes. All 12 recruits take their turn. None replicate her perfect sequence. The initial laughter is gone, replaced by quiet respect, tinged with shame. Evelyn steps to the scoring board, jotting down results without comment. As she finishes the last line, the range door swings open. Light floods in, cutting through the silence. A man in a high-ranking uniform steps inside, followed by an officer everyone recognizes. General Robert Morrison, a legend in the sniper community. Martinez snaps to attention. The recruits freeze, some still holding rifles, others wiping sweat. Morrison strides slowly to the targets, pausing before the 3 marked boards, inspecting each bullet hole. He turns, facing the rigid line of soldiers. Who fired these shots? His voice is low and even. No one speaks. Only Evelyn stands at the back, her hand resting on the clipboard. She says simply, "Mine, sir." A moment of silence. Then Morrison smiles. "Do you know who you just laughed at?" No one breathes. Cooper stares at the ground, his face pale. Morrison's gaze sweeps the group. "That's Sergeant Evelyn Jackson, the finest sniper I've ever commanded." The words land like a final whistle in a match. In an instant, every laugh, every doubt, dissipates like gun smoke after a perfect shot. No one moves. On the range, the silence is heavy enough to hear the faint clink of shell casings rolling on the floor. Sunlight slants through the door, illuminating the faces of the recruits who laughed an hour ago, now pale, frozen, as if the midday heat has drained from the room. General Robert Morrison steps toward the targets, his polished boots catching the metallic glint. He stops at the third board, the 800-meter target. A single perfect hole sits dead center, as if drawn by a compass. He leans closer, inspects it, then straightens, a rare satisfaction in his narrowed eyes. 3 shots, he says softly, his voice carrying without effort. All perfect. He turns. Every eye is on Evelyn now. She stands tall, hands clasped behind her back. The light edges her brown hair with gold. Morrison asks, "Sergeant Jackson, are you evaluating the recruits?" "Yes, sir." "And these shots are yours?" "Yes, sir." He nods, as if confirming something he already knew. Then he faces the recruits, his gaze cooling. "Do you know who she is?" No one speaks. Cooper's head stays down, his collar damp with sweat. Morrison's lips twitch, not a smile, but the expression of a man watching a lesson unfold before him. He steps past each face, his voice steady but piercing. Sergeant Evelyn Jackson holds every long-range shooting record in the U.S. Army. She has 47 confirmed kills across 3 combat deployments. 2-time champion of the International Sniper Competition. She's trained men whose names you'll only read in classified mission reports. And now, he pauses, staring directly at Cooper. "You think she doesn't know how to handle an M24? A dry chuckle escapes Martinez, the range officer, then cuts off as he realizes the general isn't done. "You just mocked one of the best shooters on the planet." Morrison says, his tone grave without needing to be harsh. Her techniques are the foundation for redesigning our entire Special Operations Sniper training program. Eyes shift from surprise to admiration, then to embarrassment. The group stands rooted to the ground. No one dares move. Colonel Marcus Blake, the base commander, steps forward. His gaze holds a mix of pride and respect. His voice is rough, deliberate. She didn't tell you who she was because she believes skill should speak for itself, not reputation. And today, she proved it. 3 shots, no boasts, no excuses. Cooper looks up, his face flushed with shame and regret. He stammers but can't form words. Evelyn glances at him, her eyes not angry, just calm. She's seen this reaction before at other ranges, from other officers, from men who thought strength lay in muscle, not mind. Morrison circles the range, his eyes lingering on the faintly smoking M24. He nods. You've kept it well, Jackson. Just like the first time I saw you in Kandahar. Evelyn nods. The rifle's as loyal as ever, sir. Not just the rifle, he replies, then turns to the recruits. You think the army runs on strength, but it runs on discipline and knowledge. Jackson is proof of that. A faint breeze carries the smell of old gunpowder. Martinez swallows, stepping back. He feels he's learned a lesson too. Morrison lowers his voice, each word clear. I'm here to observe Jackson's training methods. We're rebuilding the entire sniper program based on her techniques. I want you to watch, learn, and replicate. Not because of her gender, but because of the precision the world is trying to emulate. Cooper nods slightly, his eyes on the 800-meter target, 3 holes nearly overlapping. Not luck, discipline. Morrison folds his arms, turning to Evelyn. Sergeant, I want you to lead this class through an advanced training session. They need to see what combat precision looks like. And after that, his eyes glint, we'll discuss your next assignment. Evelyn doesn't flinch. She stands straighter, replying crisply, Understood, sir. As Morrison and Blake leave the range, the recruits remain motionless. Only when the door closes does the wind rush in, filling the void. Cooper takes a breath, steps toward Evelyn. His voice is hoarse, quiet. Sergeant, no need. She cuts in, gentle but firm. Lesson's over. Start fresh. She turns, picks up the M24, wipes dust from its barrel, her gaze drifting to the vast training field. Out there, the cracked earth stretches under a high sky, the wind still blowing as if nothing has happened. But inside the room, something has shifted forever. The line between arrogance and respect, between laughter and silence. As dusk falls, the sunlight fades from the concrete floor. The recruits stand in a line, no one daring to joke. They watch the small woman adjusting her rifle, her stance calm, her eyes bright as the scope's glass reflecting the golden sky. No titles needed. No justifications. Just 3 shots, and the truth speaks for itself. The next morning, the range is unusually quiet. No laughter, no mockery. Only the wind and the dry screech of steel target frames sliding along their tracks. Evelyn arrives early, earlier than anyone. She carries a small black notebook, its leather edges worn by time, her personal ballistic journal, a companion through 3 war zones. No flowery words inside, just numbers, angles, wind pressure, temperature, elevation. A life measured in distances and trajectories. She sets the notebook on the table, preparing silently. As the recruits file in, she doesn't look up. They move lighter than usual, their ranks neater, as if afraid to disturb the solemn air enveloping the room. Cooper is the last to enter. His eyes meet hers for a second, no longer defiant, only quietly respectful. Evelyn speaks, her voice not loud but clear. We're going to talk about the difference between hitting and shooting accurately. She pauses, letting the words settle in the silence. Hitting is when the bullet touches the target. Shooting accurately is when the bullet lands exactly where you intend. In any condition. At any time. The difference lies in discipline. No one takes notes, but everyone listens. She steps to the table, opens the black notebook, flips through pages filled with tiny, meticulous handwriting. Wind speeds, humidity, elevation, even the sun's direction. This isn't a trophy book. It's a mistake book. I record every time I miss, so I never repeat it. The simple statement strikes at the pride of young soldiers used to measuring skill by hit ratios. Evelyn gestures. Put down the M24. Today we shoot with our eyes first. She leads them to the field, the sun harsh, the wind swirling. The 12 recruits line up, confused by what shooting with eyes means. Evelyn points to the horizon, where small flags flutter. Watch the wind direction, then tell me its speed. They hesitate. Some guess, wildly off. Evelyn smiles, not mocking, just explaining. This is why most of you can't hit at 800 meters. The wind isn't your enemy. It's a message. Learn to listen to it. She kneels, scoops a pinch of dirt, lets it drift in the air. The grains swirl, drifting slowly left. Northwest wind, 8 miles an hour. Now, who can confirm? Cooper raises his binoculars, adjusts the lens, then nods faintly. 8 miles, Sergeant. Evelyn smiles, a rare, slight nod. Good. Better to learn than to argue. The lesson begins. Evelyn doesn't just teach, she demonstrates. She has each recruit watch as she calculates, scribbling on a board. Bullet drop. Coriolis effect. Temperature deviation. Not everyone understands, but they feel the cold precision in every number. Then she lies down, aims, fires. The first bullet pierces the 600-meter target. The second hits a 1,000-meter target the size of a hand. A metallic ting rings out, lingering in the wind. A ripple of awe passes through the recruits. No one claps. They stay silent, knowing applause would diminish the moment's gravity. She doesn't need praise. She only says, "That's physics, no magic." And physics, it doesn't care if you're a man or a woman. That afternoon, Evelyn assigns another exercise. She places a small mirror behind a target and demands they hit it using only its reflection. To teach you to trust your calculations, not your eyes. The task seems like a joke but humbles the group. Only 2 hit the target, Cooper among them. He doesn't believe in himself until he sees his bullet mark the target's edge. Evelyn nods, her eyes warming for the first time. During a break, Cooper approaches, his voice low. "Sergeant, do you ever fear missing?" "In combat, I mean." Evelyn looks up. The sunlight reflects in her eyes like deep green water. "I've been afraid, but not of missing. I feared losing discipline. When you lose discipline, you lose everything, your chance, your team, even yourself." Her words aren't just for Cooper. They're for the entire class. And they hit deeper than any technical lecture. As sunset falls, the range glows copper red. The recruits lie scattered, focused on adjusting their scopes. No one jokes. Each is lost in their own world. Numbers, wind, breath. Evelyn walks the line, occasionally correcting a wrist or shoulder position. She doesn't shout or praise. Her presence alone demands absolute focus. When the session ends, she stands, surveying the distant targets. The boards are perforated, not perfect, but improved. Evelyn nods slightly. "You shot better than this morning. But remember, tomorrow, we start from zero. Every day is a recalibration. A good sniper doesn't cling to yesterday's results, only today's discipline." She turns, the setting sun stretching her shadow across the ground. Cooper watches, a new feeling stirring, not just admiration, but a desire to be better, to be worthy. Above, the sun dips behind the trees. The last light glints through a scope, a thin streak of fire. Evelyn pauses, looking back at her trainees one last time before leaving the range. In that moment, the wind rises, carrying the faint clink of metal, the sound of transformation, of a generation learning to shoot not just with hands, but with minds. The evening settles, painting the barracks red. After a long training day, Evelyn stands alone in a small room behind the range. The window is cracked open, the breeze carrying a faint whiff of gunpowder. On the table, her black notebook lies open, the last page noting, humidity 43%, wind 7 miles per hour, 12 recruits progress. She smiles faintly. Progress, those 2 words are always enough for her. A knock at the door. Martinez steps in, unusually tense. General Morrison and Colonel Blake want to see you now. In the strategy room. Evelyn nods, asking no questions. In the army, some summons carry the weight of change without explanation. The strategy room sits at the end of a concrete hallway. As she enters, yellow light spills over maps spread across the table. Morrison stands with his back to her, studying a map of the western region. Colonel Blake leans against the table, holding a thick file. The air feels heavy, like a meeting yet to start but already significant. Morrison turns. His eyes are sharp but warm. The look of someone who's given orders in war and lost enough to value survivors. Sit down, Evelyn. She sits, back straight, hands on her knees. Blake slides the file toward her. The Fort Benning logo is embossed on the cover. We want you to take the role of chief instructor for the new advanced sniper program, he says. The room goes still. The wall clock ticks each second. Evelyn stares at the file, her gaze steady. In her mind flash memories of other ranges. Skeptical eyes, whispers behind her back. Meetings where she had to justify why someone like her could teach. Sir, she says softly, I've been offered similar roles before. And every time, it's the same story. Blake nods. Resistance. Yes. From those who think skill is tied to size and gender. They talk about strength, tradition, but never data. She pauses, her voice softening. Are you sure you want to reopen that fight? Morrison steps closer, hands on the table. His voice low like wind over metal. No, Jackson. We don't want to reopen it. We want to end it. The words make the room hum. He looks at her, his gaze direct. It's time. Our army stopped measuring ability by outdated molds. You're the only one I trust to reset that standard. If anyone resists, they'll answer to me. Not you. Evelyn stays silent. Old echoes resound in her mind. Laughter on the range. Doubts. Long nights calibrating data from Afghanistan missions. For years, she proved herself step by step, shot by shot. Now, they want her to shape the next generation. Blake clasps his hands, speaking slowly but firmly. You've carried the burden of proving yourself too long. Now it's time for others to prove they're worthy of your standard. This isn't an honor. It's a responsibility. Evelyn looks at the 2 men, one representing traditional strength, the other a vision of the future. 2 emotions clash within her. Pride and fatigue. Pride that her work is finally seen. Fatigue from knowing that changing an institution's mindset is no easier than hitting a target in a sandstorm. She stands, steps to the window, gazes at the barracks where the sunset falls over rows of pines. Her voice is low, steady. I'll do it, sir. On one condition. Morrison raises an eyebrow. Condition? Anyone who enters my training with biases about gender, strength, or size, they'll get the same lesson as those recruits yesterday. Not through argument. Through results. I shoot, they shoot. If they lose, they start over. If they win, I'll learn from them. A brief silence. Then Morrison chuckles softly, the laugh of someone who's found the right weapon at the right time. I wouldn't have it any other way, he says. That's the spirit. Blake nods. And you'll have full authority to design the program to your standards. Evelyn returns to the table, picks up the file. She opens it to the first page, bold text. Fort Benning Advanced Sniper Instructor Program, Commander, Sergeant Evelyn Jackson. The black letters on white paper make her heart skip a beat. In that fleeting moment, she realizes, this is no longer personal. It's a chance to turn her silence into a systemic voice, so no woman stepping onto a range after her will face the question, "Are you strong enough?" She closes the file, her hand resting on the cover. "When do I start?" Morrison replies crisply. 3 weeks. We'll arrange logistics and move you to Fort Benning. For now, rest. Jackson. You'll need it. Evelyn salutes and leaves. The hallway stretches long and quiet. Dim lights cast her shadow, her steps echoing like a steady clock, slow, resolute, never looking back. Outside, night falls. The wind blows cold, carrying the scent of pine and damp earth. Evelyn pauses on the porch, looking up at the sky. Thousands of stars faint through the mist. Pride and unease swirl within her, an indescribable current. But one thing she knows: tomorrow, when the sun rises, she'll step onto the range again, as always. Because that's the only way to prepare for battles no longer fought with live rounds but with minds, data, and belief. The wind picks up, brushing her sleeve. Evelyn tightens her grip, feeling the coarse fabric of her uniform like a reminder. Don't forget who you are. She turns from the training field, walking forward, each step silent but firm, each one marking a new chapter in the history she's about to write. Early morning at Fort Benning is shrouded in fog thick as gun smoke. Wind from the pine forest sweeps through the flagpoles, heavy canvas snapping against steel with a steady metallic clang. The base sprawls wide, cold, smelling of wet earth. On the concrete yard before the training area, 30 trainees stand in formation. 27 men, 3 women, from 4 branches: Army, Marines, Navy SEALs, Air Force. All share the same unspoken question. Who's the new chief instructor? The door opens. Evelyn Jackson steps out. Her crisp field uniform bears the chief instructor's insignia, a worn M24 in her hands gleaming under the dawn light. She walks slowly, deliberately, each step echoing with the dry click of boots on concrete. The group snaps to attention. No one speaks, but she reads their thoughts in their eyes. Curiosity, respect, skepticism, even a hint of challenge. It's a look she knows well. She stops in the yard center, her voice ringing clear and calm. "I'm Staff Sergeant Evelyn Jackson. I'll be directly responsible for this advanced sniper training course." She pauses, letting the words sink into the air. "Yes, I'm a woman. Yes, I may be smaller than some of you. But that has no bearing on my ability to make you better shooters. Here, we don't judge by muscle. We judge by results." A faint murmur ripples through. In the front row, a tall Marine in uniform, Sergeant Ethan Ward, gives a slight smile, not disrespectful but noticeable. He's served 2 tours in Afghanistan, known for long-range accuracy. And his eyes say, "Let's see what she's got." Evelyn notices immediately. She points to a table holding another M24. "Sergeant Ward, you seem to have a question." Ward shrugs lightly. "No disrespect, Sergeant. Just wondering what qualifies you to teach those of us who've shot in combat." His tone isn't harsh, almost polite, but the doubt is clear as a bugle call. Evelyn nods, unruffled. "Fair question. I have 11 years of sniper experience, 3 combat deployments, 47 confirmed kills. I've trained over 200 special forces, including SEALs and Delta. But records don't matter. Results do. If you don't shoot better by the end of this course, my record means nothing. Judge me by your progress." She scans the formation. "And if anyone here has concerns about a female instructor, a smaller frame, or anything else besides skill, speak now. Because once this course starts, the only thing that exists is performance." No one speaks. Ward nods slightly, this time with genuine respect. Evelyn takes a breath. "Good. Let's begin." The training starts like a storm. They shoot at every distance, 200 to 1,000 meters. Evelyn moves between positions like a shadow, quiet, no unnecessary commands. She adjusts a SEAL's shoulder, corrects an Air Force shooter's wrist, scribbles constantly in her notebook. Mistakes aren't scolded, they're shot again until the bullet follows the calculated path. By noon, the sun scorches everything. A strong southern wind poses a real challenge. Evelyn sets a test. 3 shots, 300, 600, 900 meters in swirling wind. No one hits all 3. Even Ward, the most confident, misses the last. As he stands, she looks at him calmly. Not bad. But the wind isn't your enemy. It only reveals who truly understands their bullet. That afternoon, she demonstrates. A single shot at 1,200 meters. No preamble, no fanfare. She lies down, adjusts the scope, breathes deeply. The shot cracks, short and sharp. The distant target sways. A black dot appears dead center. Ward freezes. Some trainees step forward, as if to see closer, but no one dares ask. Evelyn stands, her voice even. That's not magic. It's math, physics, and discipline. You can do it if you learn every tiny number. Ballistics don't care who pulls the trigger. Late afternoon, the sunlight bathes the range in red. The trainees are exhausted but silent, no complaints. They know they're in the hands of someone who no longer needs to prove herself. She's teaching them to prove themselves. Evelyn walks the target line, marking with white chalk. Deviations, wind speed, temperature, timing. Her handwriting is swift, slanted, resolute. Tomorrow, she says, we'll shoot in the dark. When you can't see, only instinct remains. And instinct, untrained, will betray you. Ward approaches, rifle still slung over his shoulder. He pauses, then speaks just loud enough for her. Sergeant, I get it now. Evelyn turns, her gaze soft but sharp. No, you're just starting to get it. They lock eyes for a second. The wind sweeps through the range, carrying the scent of old gunpowder, earth, and sweat. Ward salutes, steps back into formation. Evelyn nods faintly. As dusk settles, she gathers her gear. The last sunlight glints off the scope, a thin spark like fire. A small light, but enough to ignite a new flame, one that will burn away any lingering prejudice on this range. The first day at Fort Benning ends, but in that silence, a quiet revolution has begun. 2 weeks after that first day, the late summer heat lingers around the barracks like the breath of a giant beast. Evelyn has set a rhythm for the class. Mornings for long-range shooting, noon for ballistic analysis, afternoons for urban simulations. Results climb so fast that commanding officers take notice. But that very speed stirs unease in some. Rumors spread through dimly lit hallways. The female instructor is ruining tradition. She's too strict. Sniping isn't a science to scribble in notebooks like math class. The whispers are small but persistent. That afternoon, Evelyn is summoned to meeting room 2, where senior instructors discuss adjusting the new program. She steps in, the air thick with tension. 3 officers sit waiting. Lieutenant Colonel Morgan, head of tactical training. Captain Reynolds, a grizzled veteran who held Fort Benning's long-range record a decade ago. And Major Coleman, her real opponent. Coleman trained her 8 years ago, when she was the only female trainee in her class. He once told her to her face, "Women can be good at theory, but they don't have the nerves for battlefield pressure." Now, he sits across from her. His smile thin as a knife's edge on paper. "Sergeant Jackson," he begins, "we've received feedback that your training methods are overly academic. The Army doesn't need scientists. We need combat shooters." Evelyn keeps her calm, her voice steady. "Sir, my goal isn't to make them scientists, but to make them understand why a bullet hits or misses. Combat doesn't forgive mistakes. Discipline is the science of survival." Reynolds folds his arms, his eyes half approving, half skeptical. "But you're asking trainees to log data like they're in a lab. Soldiers in the field don't have time to write diaries." Evelyn responds without hesitation. "They'll have time, or they'll lose more their teammates." Morgan, silent until now, speaks. "Your class's results are impressive, But we must ensure all methods align with tradition. You're making people feel threatened. Evelyn looks around the room, at three men with three different gazes waiting for her to back down. She feels no anger, only the familiar weight, old pressure in a new form. Sirs, she says softly but firmly, if progress threatens anyone, the problem isn't progress. Coleman leans forward, his voice lower, hissing through his teeth. You shouldn't think a few medals and articles can change how we do things here. Fort Benning has over half a century of tradition, and we're not about to let a newcomer, however skilled, redefine it. The air grows heavy. Evelyn stands, placing her hands lightly on the table, her eyes unwavering. Major, tradition only matters if it moves us forward. When it stops soldiers from surviving, it becomes a relic. Silence. Morgan taps his pen, glancing at the others. Enough. Sergeant Jackson, you have authority to continue your methods, but I want weekly detailed reports. And Coleman, Reynolds, we'll see whose results hold up. The meeting ends. Evelyn salutes, turns, and leaves. The hallway feels lighter, but in her heart, another front has opened. She knows what just happened was only a prelude. In the army, the most dangerous wars aren't fought on battlefields, but in meeting rooms, where words can end careers. That evening, she returns to the range. Night fog settles like thin smoke. On the wooden table, her M24 rests quietly. She opens her black notebook, flips to a new page, and logs the meeting. Humidity, 58%. Internal pressure, high. Wind from the old direction. Then she closes it, sits, and shoulders the rifle. 3 shots, 3 targets, 300, 600, 1,000 meters. She fires slowly, each shot reminding her that only precision makes a voice heard. The sharp cracks echo in the night. 3 sparks flare and fade. She doesn't need to check the results. She knows they hit. The next day, training resumes, but the atmosphere has shifted. A few veteran instructors watch from a distance, taking notes, whispering. Evelyn pays no mind. She teaches as always, steady and meticulous. When the session ends, Ward, the skeptic-turned student, approaches, handing her a notebook. I started logging data. Your way, it works better than I expected. Evelyn flips through pages of careful notes. Good, keep it. One day, those numbers will save your life. Dusk falls. From afar, Coleman watches. His eyes no longer hold contempt, but not yet acceptance, just the look of someone realizing they're losing a silent war. Evelyn doesn't look back. She walks across the yard, the setting sun lighting the perforated targets. She knows she's opened another front, but this time, not with a rifle, but with undeniable results. In her mind, Morrison's words from the old base echo. You don't need to shout to change the world, Jackson. Let your shots speak. She smiles faintly. All right, sir, she murmurs. Then she chambers another round. 3 shots ring out in the dusk. A clean, cold sound, carrying a clear declaration. Change has begun, and no bullet can stop its trajectory. Early Monday morning, fog blankets the urban simulation range at Fort Benning's south end. Low concrete buildings, steel netting, broken windows, and narrow alleys mimic real combat zones. The air smells of damp concrete, gunpowder, and machine oil. Evelyn stands on the observation platform, scanning the mock city. Above, sunlight pierces the fog, turning it into a glowing veil. Below, 30 trainees are in position. Today is their first combat test, and a special panel is watching. Lieutenant Colonel Morgan, Captain Reynolds, and Major Coleman. Coleman proposed this test. He said curtly in last week's meeting, if Sergeant Jackson's program is truly effective, let her prove it on the ground, not on spreadsheets. Morrison approved. Evelyn only nodded, no objections. Now, as the loudspeaker crackles, the yard falls silent. The task: neutralize 5 hidden targets moving through the urban zone. Any shot deviating more than 5 centimeters from the center deducts points. Time limit: 8 minutes. No one knows the target's exact positions. The wind shifts unpredictably. Light changes constantly. Coleman steps closer, his smile dry. "Sergeant, care to demonstrate first? Show the trainees how math works in the real world?" He emphasizes math with faint disdain. Evelyn nods. "Gladly, sir." She takes her familiar M24, checking each detail scope. Safety, sling, Mark V optic. No gloves. Her bare hands feel the rifle's cold metal skin. Morgan raises his stopwatch. "Begin." The click of the timer cuts the air like a bolt snapping into place. Evelyn moves slowly, crouching between concrete walls. Northeast wind at 12 miles per hour. She adjusts her stance. In her mind, everything becomes data. Temperature, wind direction, light reflection off the walls. She spots a flicker on Building 6's roof, a metal target hidden behind broken bricks. She drops to the ground, estimates 430 meters, adjusts the barrel 0.3 mils up, 0.2 mils right. One breath she fires. A clean ting rings out. The first target falls. No pause. She slides through a narrow corner, wind shifting. Another target glints in a second-floor window. Stronger wind, swirling dust. She calculates a 7.62 round drop 6 inches at this range. Wind deviation 1.5 mils left. Second shot. Ting. 2 targets down. Reynolds raises an eyebrow. She's calculating it all in her head? Morgan replies softly. No. She's feeling it. Coleman stays silent, his eyes like an unspent bullet. Evelyn keeps moving. Time races, sweat beads on her brow. 3 minutes left. She darts through a dark hallway, steps light, breathing steady. From afar, sunlight hits a small mirror, a reflection blinding her scope. A trap. She shifts angles, unhurried. An off-angle shot. The bullet hits the wall, sparking. She breathes, adjusts. Fourth shot. Ting. 1 target remains. The clock shows 7:30. She climbs to a tin roof, scanning the final zone. Nothing. The wind stills. Too still. Then a bird darts up. She follows its path, spotting the last target half in shadow, at an elevated angle. She adjusts, lowers the barrel, 0.4 mils. A slow breath. Fifth shot. A spark flashes, the target falls. The clock stops at 7:53. The observation area is deathly quiet. 5 shots, 5 hits. In conditions Coleman designed for her to fail. Morrison looks at Coleman, saying nothing. His eyes are enough. Evelyn stands, dusting her uniform. She removes the magazine, sets the rifle down, her voice calm. "Sirs, the math holds true in any terrain." Ward, watching with the class, can't suppress a small smile. The other trainees look at her, not with mere awe but with the silent respect soldiers give a commander they trust absolutely. Coleman stays quiet for a long moment. He scans the score sheet, then speaks slowly. "We still need the trainees' results. One person's skill doesn't prove a program." His voice is dry, but his eyes lack their earlier scorn, only the unease of someone forced to face what they once denied. Evelyn nods. "Of course. They'll do the rest." That afternoon, the class takes the urban course. Ward goes last. He hits 4 targets, 1 slightly off. As he exits, he salutes, sweat soaking his shirt. "Almost there," Evelyn says. "But the wind at the corridor's end shifts faster than at the start." "You used old data." Ward nods. "Yes, Sergeant. I'll adjust." When the test ends, the scoreboard shows average hit rate 87%, 23% higher than last year's class. The numbers need no defense. Morgan steps forward, placing a hand on Evelyn's shoulder. "You just rewrote Fort Benning's standard." She replies softly, "I didn't rewrite it. I just shot it. Correctly. That night, in his office, Coleman sits alone with the report. He reads and rereads. Accuracy rate improvement. Plus 23%. He sighs, his eyes leaving the paper, gazing at the dark range outside. Far off, a small light flashes Evelyn, shooting alone in the night. Coleman smiles faintly, almost to himself. She's not breaking tradition, she's creating a new one. Out there, amid the wind and metal clinks, 3 shots ring out. Steady, deep, precise. The sound is no longer just bullets. It's the sound of change echoing against Fort Benning's old walls, against the layers of history's prejudice. 2 months after the urban test, word of Evelyn's training spreads through the system. Internal reports from Fort Benning climb the chain of command, from division to corps to the Pentagon. The numbers are undeniable. Hit rates up 23%, deviation down 41%, target acquisition time cut by 12 seconds per shot. No one has achieved this before. One October morning, with fog still clinging to the range, Morrison visits her. He stands silently, watching her shoot at 1,200 meters, the bullet piercing the target's center. Then he says briefly, "Get ready for Washington. The Pentagon wants your briefing." Evelyn lowers her rifle. The wind brushes her sleeve, carrying the chill of early fall. She knows this is no ordinary meeting, it's a battle on a higher stage. There, they don't shoot rifles, they shoot ideas. 3 days later, she arrives in Washington, D.C. The Pentagon looms like a massive stone fortress. Uniformed personnel move through security gates. Evelyn passes through glass doors, a half-inch thick dossier in hand, all data, charts, ballistic diagrams, no embellished words, no slogans, just facts. The main conference room on the 3rd floor awaits. As she enters, 12 people sit around a long table. Generals, advisors, tactical experts, and a few civilians in gray suits. Morrison sits at the table's head, but today he doesn't speak for her. He's there as a witness. The session's chair is General Brooks, head of Joint Forces Training. Known for his rigidity and 4 decades of service, he barely nods as Evelyn salutes. Staff Sergeant Jackson, you have 15 minutes. Tell us why we should overhaul a system that's worked for decades. No pleasantries, no warm-up. Brooks's opening is a warning shot. Evelyn opens her dossier, the light reflecting off the black text. She begins, her voice calm, steady as a chambered round. Sirs, the current sniper training system relies heavily on instinct and individual strength. But today's battlefield demands more than quick shooters, it needs those who understand. Understand the wind, the physics, their own limits. That's why the Fort Benning program was redesigned to quantify every measurable factor. She activates the screen, displaying charts, wind deviation angles, reaction speeds, average heart rates, ballistic errors. Each number is backed by real data. Each graph proves her techniques improve every trainee regardless of gender or build. Brooks leans back, his voice cold. These numbers are impressive, but war isn't a lab. You can train those who've never seen combat, but out there, there's no time for calculations. Evelyn meets his gaze. Sir, precisely because there's no time to calculate in the field, we train them until math becomes instinct. Then they don't think they shoot, and still hit. A brief silence. Advisors exchange glances. Morrison leans slightly, his lips twitching, half pride, half tension. Brooks folds his arms. You talk about discipline. But a female officer leading the sniper program, do you think hundreds of male instructors out there will follow? Evelyn responds slowly, each word deliberate. Sir, bullets have no gender. Neither do targets. The soldier who hits more deserves to teach. If someone refuses to learn for other reasons, that's not my failing, it's theirs. For valuing ego over survival. A faint cough from the room's corner. Reynolds, who once opposed her at Fort Benning, sits in the audience. He nods slightly, affirming her words. Brooks leans back, his eyes softening slightly. You believe your method can scale to the entire military? I don't believe. I know. Evelyn's voice is quiet but resolute. I'm not here to ask for a chance. I'm here to deliver results. If you want, I'll demonstrate right now. A few chuckle, thinking she's joking. But Morrison's voice cuts through. Give her the chance. I've seen it. One more time. We lose nothing except prejudice. Brooks looks at him, then nods slowly. Very well. Demonstrate. 15 minutes later, a temporary range is set up behind the building. A metal target stands at 800 meters. Light wind, soft sunlight. The entire panel watches. Evelyn lies down, adjusts her scope, settles her stance as she's done countless times. Every eye tracks her smallest movements. She fires. The crack is brief, sharp, like a heartbeat pausing. On the target, a single round hole. Dead center. No one speaks. Morrison smiles. Reynolds mutters, perfect, to the point even the rangefinder can't detect deviation. Brooks peers through binoculars, then lowers them. His face is no longer cold. He steps toward Evelyn, his voice low but carrying respect. Sergeant Jackson, you're no longer just teaching Fort Benning's trainees, you'll train the trainers. And I want you to rewrite the national curriculum. Evelyn stands at attention, salutes. Yes, sir. Brooks smiles faintly. I'm not easily convinced. But some shots speak louder than speeches. That afternoon, as sunlight stretches across the Potomac, Evelyn stands on the third-floor balcony of the military hotel, gazing west. The buildings reflect an orange glow like molten steel. In her hands, the M24 remains a symbol of everything she's fought to hold. For the first time in years, she allows herself a quiet sigh of relief. Not for victory, but because she no longer needs to pull the trigger to prove herself. Now, the numbers, the lessons, and thousands of future trainees will do that for her. Somewhere in the sunset, she knows a simple, profound truth. When you teach others to see the world through the precision of respect, you don't just create better shooters, you create better people. Camera flashes flare incessantly. Evelyn walks through the Pentagon's halls, her steps echoing on marble floors. Reporters crowd both sides, microphones thrust toward her. Questions come like rapid-fire rounds. Sergeant Jackson, how does it feel to be the first female chief instructor for the entire military? There are rumors male trainers are resisting the new curriculum. Any comment? Is the Army favoring women to build a media image? Evelyn doesn't answer. She keeps a faint smile, her eyes calm. On her shoulder, the chief sniper instructor badge gleams under the lights. But inside, she feels something shifting, no longer applause and respect, but undercurrents, silent, cold, and persistent. As the elevator doors close, the noise fades. Only her steady breathing remains, the hum of the machine, and her reflection in the mirror, stern, cold, weary. The mirror shows a woman who's achieved everything she dreamed of, but it also reflects a question she's never dared answer. After defeating the system, am I still myself? 2 months later, the National Training Program, now called the Jackson Standard, is implemented. Sniper centers across the U.S. adopt her curriculum. Environmental calculations, wind speed measurements, data logging, training rooted in discipline over strength. Internal reports show improved performance, reduced casualties. But alongside, a quiet wave of resistance simmers. Some veteran instructors call the program too soft, unrealistic. One even posts publicly on a military forum, sniping isn't a classroom math game. It's a man's instinct. The comment spreads faster than a bullet. Though no names are mentioned, everyone knows who it targets. Evelyn reads it on her computer screen in her Fort Benning office. The blue glow reflects on her face. She doesn't anger. She only sighs a long, deep breath, as if accustomed to this kind of war. But what stings most isn't the attack. It's that Ward, her closest trainee, is now caught in the debate. One afternoon, as she inspects the range, Ward seeks her out. He stands at attention, his voice low but tense. "Sergeant, I need to speak plainly. Some old instructors say the new methods are killing fighting spirit. They want the old ways back. I don't know which side to take." Evelyn looks at him for a long moment, then speaks softly. "You don't need to take my side, Ward. Take the side of truth. If your trainees shoot better, miss less, that's your answer." Ward lowers his head. "But sometimes truth isn't enough, Sergeant. Here, people want power." His words echo in her mind long after he leaves. People want power. Yes, she's learned that in the paper battlefield. Power cuts sharper than any blade. 3 weeks later, the Pentagon holds the first review of the new program. The panel includes generals, commanders, and senior instructors, many who once opposed Evelyn. The room is thick with tension. Morrison sits quietly in a corner, observing. A senior officer stands, his voice flat. "Sir, Sergeant Jackson's methods show short-term results, but there are signs they reduce trainees' instinctive reactions in sudden situations. We believe the system needs work calibration." Another voice chimes in. "Exactly. The Army doesn't need snipers turned into weather analysts. They need instinct." The room stirs. Evelyn sits still, her eyes on the data screen. Then Morrison speaks, his voice low but firm. "With all due respect, you're conflating instinct with lack of discipline. In combat, who's the better instinct, the one who shoots fast, or the one who shoots true?" No one answers. He turns to Evelyn. "Anything to add?" Evelyn stands. Her voice isn't loud, but each word carves the air. "Sirs, you speak of instinct. But instinct isn't born naturally. It's forged through thousands of precise repetitions. We don't destroy instinct, we hone it. If that threatens anyone, the issue isn't the program." The room quiets. An old general nods, muttering, "She's right. Discipline creates instinct." The meeting ends without a final verdict, but Evelyn knows she's no longer alone. That night, she returns to the range. The air is cold, the wind strong, the target swaying in the dark. She sets down her M24, peering through the scope. All is silent. No arguments, no lights, just the wind and distance. She fires. 1 shot, 2, 3, each hits center. Each shot affirms that truth doesn't need to shout. It only needs to endure long enough to speak for itself. When she stands, the moonlight illuminates the distant target, 3 holes, nearly overlapping. She knows that no matter the undercurrents, those holes are proof no one can erase. And in the Army, the only thing stronger than power is results. The following winter, snow blankets Fort Benning's range. Tire tracks carved deep into the white, like bullet paths across the sky. Evelyn Jackson teaches daily, through biting wind or blizzard. A new course begins. Trainees arrive from 12 nations: Britain, France, Japan, Poland, Israel, Australia, even Germany. All sent to study the Jackson Standard, now known globally as the Precision Doctrine. Evelyn enters the classroom. The room falls silent. On the board, in clear white chalk, accuracy is respect. She wrote it at dawn. "We don't shoot to kill," she begins, her voice steady, cold yet warm. "We shoot to prove that precision is respect. Respect for those beside you, and even for your opponent, because only respect keeps you from mistakes." Eyes from across the world, blue, brown, black, gray, watch her. Some have fought in the Middle East, others are European special forces, but all are silent. No one doubts this woman anymore. They only want to understand how she sees through a scope what the world seems to miss. News of Evelyn's course spreads. International media reports. An American woman is reshaping how the world trains snipers. The Jackson Doctrine, when precision replaces strength. Allied militaries send officers to observe. No one comes to judge anymore, they come to learn. And somewhere, those who once doubted her now stand among the audience, silently watching her teach, knowing history is being rewritten before their eyes. One foggy morning, as Evelyn guides trainees at 1,000 meters, a young Israeli lieutenant named Levi asks, "Ma'am, why do you insist we log every shot, every wind speed, every humidity? In combat? Who has time for that?" Evelyn looks at him. A faint smile. Because logging is the only way to turn luck into skill. One day, in the field, you'll recall a number you wrote, and it'll save your life. Ignore it, and you'll rely on luck, and luck always comes at a cost. Levi nods, his gaze quieting. He understands. That day's shoot, he hits all 3 targets at 1,200 meters a first in his life. A week later, NATO formally requests, propose Staff Sergeant Evelyn Jackson as tactical advisor for the multinational sniper program. Morrison calls her that night. His voice crackles through the phone. Rough but joyful. "Congratulations, Jackson. You haven't just changed the U.S. Army. You've changed NATO." Evelyn sits silently in her office, a cold coffee cup beside her. The small desk lamp casts light on her old M24, its scratched scope still gleaming. She smiles faintly, not for fame, but because she's seen the result of a decade-long silent war. But in that joy, there's a hollow space. She recalls her early days on the range, mocking laughter, skeptical looks, the heavy silence of all male meeting rooms. Those memories no longer hurt. They're the low hum behind her triumph. They remind her every bullet has a cost, and the price of change is always solitude. In May, she flies to London for an international military conference. In the Grand Hall of the London Defence Academy, hundreds of officers from 20 nations hear her speak on the philosophy of precision is respect. No more flashing cameras, no doubting murmurs. Only silence and absolute focus. She says, "Sniping isn't the art of killing, it's the art of understanding yourself. When you know your body, your breath, your heartbeat, you don't just control the bullet, you control fear. And a soldier who can't control fear can't protect anyone." As her speech ends, the hall rises. Applause echoes, rolling like gunfire across mountains. Evelyn bows her head. In that moment, she no longer feels like the doubted woman of years past. She's just a soldier heard, understood, respected. That evening, she steps onto the Academy's terrace. London's air is cold, the wind carrying rain and exhaust. Below, the city glows like a map of lights. A young woman approaches a Norwegian lieutenant, blonde, petite. She hesitates. "Ma'am, I just want to say, your lecture inspired me to join this program. I used to fear judgment for being a woman in a sniper unit. But now I know the only thing to fear is limiting myself." Evelyn looks at her, her gaze softening. "Don't fear. Others' doubts can't kill your potential unless you let them." They stand silently, gazing at the horizon where a single star glints through the clouds. Back in the U.S., Evelyn receives an email from Ward, now a lead instructor at the Marine Sniper School. "Sergeant, I'm teaching new trainees with the Jackson Standard. There's a small female recruit, barely 110 pounds, who hit a 1,000-meter target in strong wind. I told her about the day I mocked you. She just laughed and said, 'I'll make someone rethink how they judge people like you did.'" Evelyn reads, pauses, then laughs. A rare, light sound like a breeze. She looks at her M24 on its rack, then wipes dust from its scope. In the round glass, she doesn't see her face but hundreds of others. Those who learned, doubted, changed. The world no longer asks if a woman can be a top sniper. It only asks, who's next to match her? A chilly morning at Fort Benning. The fog so thick it blurs memory. Evelyn Jackson stands alone on the empty range, staring at distant targets, white specks fading in the mist. She raises her M24, but her hands aren't as steady as before. Her right knuckles ache. Her heartbeat quickens. Years of carrying rifles, training, shooting in every weather have left marks. Nerve damage, chronic shoulder pain, eyes blurring at long range. She fires. One shot. Crack. The bullet tears through the fog, leaving a thin smoke trail. It hits but not perfectly. Half an inch right. A tiny deviation no one would notice. But Evelyn knows. She always knows. She lowers the rifle, sits on a wooden step. Her breath forms white clouds. In that moment, she realizes the only weapon time can't erode is meaning. In her office, Morrison, now retired, visits monthly. He enters, his hair white, voice gravelly. "You still teach all day like this? I thought they'd given you leave by now." Evelyn smiles lightly. "If I rest, who'll teach the kids that the wind has a heartbeat?" Morrison sits, looking at her long. "You can't keep this up forever, Jackson. Your body's signaling. You've won every battle worth winning. Don't let the last one be against yourself." Evelyn stays silent. He's right. But how can she leave this place where every shot is part of her memory? Where these walls witnessed her rise from mocked rookie to icon of precision? "Sir," she says slowly, "I'm just afraid if I leave, this fire will dim." Morrison looks out the window, where new trainees practice. "No, you've burned it long enough to spread on its own. But if you don't learn to let others carry it, it'll die in your hands." The next week, Evelyn returns to the range, not to teach, but to watch. A new group trains with Ward, now a lead instructor. He stands where she once did, voice calm, notebook in hand. She observes from afar, seeing him guide a small female trainee, hair tied high. The girl struggles to control her breathing at 800 meters. First shot misses. Second grazes the target's edge. Evelyn smiles faintly. She sees herself 10 years ago in that stance, quiet, stubborn, unyielding. Ward steps closer, placing a hand on the girl's shoulder. "Breathe slower. Let the bullet go when your breath leaves, not when your heart beats." The words are Evelyn's, now spoken by another. And when the next shot hits dead center, Evelyn knows her legacy isn't in the rifle, but in the words passed on. She leaves the range without a word. Her heart feels lighter. That night, in a small room filled with medals and photos, she sits at her old wooden desk. Before her is the black leather notebook, her companion for 15 years. Each line a bullet, each page a battle. Evelyn flips to the final page. Blank. She takes a pen, writes, "Last day at Fort Benning. I've seen what every soldier hopes to see. The next generation stronger than me." When a soldier lays down their rifle, it doesn't mean they stop. It means they've hit their final target, passing skill to others. She closes the notebook, sets it beside the M24. After a long moment, she opens a drawer, pulls out her Chief Sniper Instructor badge, worn, its silver edges dulled by time. She traces her finger over the cold metal, then places it in a wooden box, closing it. Outside, the wind howls, whipping the curtains. The flag clanks against its pole, a dry, ringing sound like distant gunfire. A month later, at a small base ceremony, Ward reads the commendation. Master Sergeant Evelyn Jackson, who reshaped the U.S. Army's sniper training philosophy, proving limits lie not in the body, but in belief. As he finishes, the range falls silent. No one claps, no one cheers. They stand at attention, heads bowed. In the Army, the deepest respect needs no noise. Evelyn steps forward, salutes. The sunlight catches her face, highlighting faint lines at her eyes. Morrison, now an old man, approaches, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You did what few can, Jackson. Not becoming a legend, but turning legend into method." She smiles, her eyes warm. "Sir, legends shouldn't be kept. They should be multiplied." That afternoon, Evelyn leaves the base. Her car moves slowly down the long road lined with pines. She looks out the window, watching the range shrink, then vanish. She knows she won't return, at least not as an instructor. The wind stirs the flags. In the distance, Shots ring out familiar, resonant, steady. Evelyn closes her eyes. She smiles at the faint ting, the sound of a bullet hitting a target crackling through the training radio. To her, it's not just metal striking metal. It's the sound of continuation. And in that moment, in the golden afternoon, she understands. No shot is eternal, but every precise one leaves a spark bright enough to light the way for those who follow. 10 years after her retirement ceremony, Fort Benning is renamed the Jackson Morrison Tactical Training Center. The targets are freshly painted, the firing range doubled in size, and at the gate stands a bronze statue of a woman with an M24 rifle, standing tall against the wind. Beneath, etched in granite, "Precision is respect, Evelyn Jackson, 1983-2043." In the foggy dawn, a military jeep stops at the gate. The door opens. A young woman steps out, Lieutenant Haley Turner, 25, the first selected for the Instructor Elite program, reserved for those with potential to become trainers. She looks up at the statue. Her hazel eyes mirror the woman in the honor wall photos. She's heard Evelyn's story since childhood, the woman who made the U.S. Army rethink ability and limits. But she's not here to worship a legend. She's here to surpass it. In the lecture hall, Haley receives her schedule: special observation training, extreme environmental conditions simulation. She enters the range and freezes. At the end of the seats, an older woman sits, silver hair, tied neatly, eyes still strikingly bright. On her shoulder, an honorary advisor badge. Evelyn Jackson. Haley steps forward, salutes crisply. "Ma'am, an honor to meet you." Evelyn looks at her, her gaze sharp but warm. "No honor. Here, there's only responsibility. Sit." Her voice is low, weary, but carries the weight of decades in command. Haley sits, clutching her notebook. Evelyn nods. "They say you have potential. I don't believe in potential. I believe in repetition, thousands of times." The training begins. Evelyn watches Haley's every move, checking the barrel, adjusting the scope, setting her stance. Each detail is precise, cold, but lacks something inner stillness. After Haley fires 3 consecutive shots, all hitting, Evelyn offers no praise. She steps forward, picks up a spent casing. "What do you hear?" Haley hesitates. "The bullet hitting the target, ma'am?" Evelyn shakes her head. "No. Listen again." The wind whistles through wall gaps, flags flutter, metal hums faintly. The wind. It's telling you something, but you're not hearing. You're just shooting. You're not feeling. Haley pauses. For the first time, she sees the difference between skill and the finesse called Jackson's instinct. That afternoon, they sit by the range, the sunset stretching over distant targets. Evelyn sets down her M24, the rifle that's been hers for over 30 years. "I'll tell you something, Turner. Sniping isn't just about hitting. It's a conversation. When you pull the trigger, the bullet carries your heartbeat, your breath, your fear. If you don't understand them, you'll never shoot truly accurately." Haley looks at her, eyes shining with pure admiration. "Ma'am, how do you stay so focused all these years?" Evelyn smiles. "Because I stopped trying to prove I'm right. I just try to teach right." She pauses, gazing into the distance. "And today, I think I'm close to passing it all on." Haley asks softly, "Passing it to who?" Evelyn turns, her green eyes locking onto her. "Maybe you." The final week of the course, Haley is chosen for the legacy shot test, Evelyn's creation. Reserved for successors. 1 shot at 1,000 meters, in swirling wind and shifting light, with no scope adjustments after observation. That morning, clouds hang heavy, wind blowing from the east. Evelyn stands behind, her breath slow, holding Morrison's old stopwatch, her only comrade who truly understood her. "Ready," she says softly. Haley lies down, checks every detail. The world fades, only her heartbeat and the wind remain. Evelyn says nothing. She watches. 1 second. 2. 3. The shot rings out. The bullet cuts through fog, soaring straight to the target. Center. Perfect. The range is silent. Haley lowers her rifle, turns, but Evelyn stands still, her gaze distant, as if seeing through the clouds. She speaks slowly, almost a whisper. You just fired your first shot, and my last. Haley understands. She doesn't reply. She salutes, crisp and solemn. That afternoon, Evelyn leaves the range for the last time. The wind blows strong, carrying the scent of gunpowder and dry grass. She walks slowly, the M24 heavy yet warm in her hands. In the distance, Haley guides new trainees, her voice clear, low, strikingly calm. The wind isn't your enemy, Haley says. It's a map. Listen, and you'll know where your bullet needs to go. Evelyn pauses. She smiles, a rare smile of someone who's seen the world turn full circle and knows everything is in its place. She turns, her silhouette shrinking in the dusk. Above, the last sunlight glints off the M24's scope, a long streak like a meteor's trail, a spark that doesn't fade. Because legends don't end with gunfire. They live on in the hands of successors, in the breath of every bullet, and in the simplest lesson Evelyn Jackson taught the world. Precision is respect. And respect is the final legacy. They say a legend ends when the last shot rings out. But for Evelyn Jackson, the legend begins in the silence after that shot. Because a legacy isn't records or shining medals on a uniform, it's in the hands that follow, in those who learn to hear the wind, feel their heartbeat, and believe limits are illusions. Evelyn didn't fight to be remembered, she fought so others could be trusted. She taught a generation that precision isn't just in the bullet, but in the respect for the craft, for teammates, for oneself. Now, every shot fired at Fort Benning isn't just practice. It's a reminder that a woman once mocked, once underestimated, turned laughter into a flame that lights the world's path. If Evelyn Jackson's story moves, you share it, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to not miss more inspiring journeys. Because sometimes, a single bullet is enough to change how the world sees a person.